everyone. Today we're going to be talking about diversity and inclusion. I want to start off talking a little bit about my own views on these topics because that's what frames our definition of diversity and inclusion is a lot of times our own experiences. And so for me, what diversity and inclusion means is that I have a sense of respect and appreciation for the fact that others have a different experience than I do. And they have a right to have all the same freedoms and all the same opportunities that I do. Everybody is of equal value and their perspective is of equal value. And I think just really listening, I may not understand all the time because I don't have the same experience as somebody else, but I just need to listen and be respectful. It does not mean that I have to agree to things that do not fall in my realm of values or my experiences. It doesn't mean I have to forego my experiences or things that I value. It just means I have to be open-minded and respectful of others. So in listening to today's video lecture, that's all I ask of all of us, right? Is to just listen and to understand our own perspective. Where do we come from? And what has shaped our worldview of things? And are we willing to just listen sometimes and think and consider others? That's to me the key. And we're going to be learning about a concept that I absolutely love, and it's called cultural humility. I do not know what it's like to be from a different culture than I was raised. I don't know, people's perspectives. I could hear things, I could, read things, but I need to have humility when it comes to understanding others' perspectives. So here we go. So first, let's talk about some definitions of diversity. Now, the key for me, like I said in the beginning, what does diversity mean to you? That's the question you need to ask yourself, because diversity means different things to different people and can be understood in different environments or different venues. So really think about for yourself, what does diversity mean to you? But generally, the definition usually refers to people around who they might differ by race, cultural, ethnicity, religion, socioeconomic status, sexual orientation, gender identity, abilities, opinions, political views, where you've grown up in the world, right? So really think to yourself about what would your definition of diversity be? In our textbook, we talk about two types of diversity, surface and deep diversity. So surface diversity are typically the things that you can see or hear. They're sort of quickly observable traits in someone, might be skin color, might be the way that they're even dressed. And that's sometimes what we make assumptions about people off of, right? Is that surface diversity, because that's our experience. So if I see somebody dressed in a particular way, I might say, oh, they're from, XYZ country or something else, right? But deep diversity is actually getting to know the person, their attitudes, their beliefs, and realizing that everybody's experiences are unique. These are not things that are easily noticeable or measurable, right? And it's things we may not know about the person until we actually talk to them and get to know them. We could have been making assumptions about a person's experience based on surface diversity. Sometimes that's right. Sometimes it's accurate, right? I might make an assumption based on something I see or hear about a person from them. And then that may be accurate, but a lot of times it may not be accurate. And so just listening to what messages are we giving ourselves in our mind about the judgments we're making about that person, right? They're from this place, or they have this level of education, or they must be a part of that race, etc. So some positive effects of diversity in educational settings. So a lot of times you're going to see different colleges host programs. This is becoming more and more just really embedded in the college experience, but also in the corporate world and in your career field. Being able to work with people from a variety of different backgrounds and understandings. This is really going to help you communicate, whether it's in college or in your career. And especially here at Monroe Community College, we have such a rich diversity of students from all over the world, lots of different backgrounds, lots of different experiences. So just being a student at MCC gives you experience in working with diverse populations. And with that experience comes this expanding of your frame of reference. You become more open and more comfortable working with people from different backgrounds because you've practiced it here at MCC. So this can actually help you by interacting with people in our course and at the college from different backgrounds, can actually help expand your abilities and experiences and give you the experience you need to have confidence in really managing how you interact with others. And some of that is just being able to listen and not jump to conclusions, and to be as accepting and kind to others and others' perspectives as you could possibly be. So some other definitions that you might see and that our textbook covers is diversity. So it's really valuing individual differences, right? But equity is creating equal access and participation, closing the gap between student success and student completion. There are a number of different factors that have gone on, especially in our country, that sometimes make equity challenging. And that kind of growth as a society can sometimes be painful. And I think we're seeing some of those growing pains right now in our society. But creating equal access and participation, everybody is welcome at the table. Everybody's perspective is welcomed. And it may mean that we head in a different direction because someone has, shared their experiences. And that's okay, right? It's sort of having an appreciation that, we don't have to sometimes always go off of what the majority rules, right? I think that's what we've always sort of held as a standard. But really question that standard. Is the opinion of a valued member of our community, whether they're in the majority or not, is that opinion, is that experience valid? And I would say yes. Inclusion is the active engagement of all viewpoints of individuals, just like we were talking about. And all members of the college community must feel valued and heard. And, that takes some practice. We're so used to getting in our opinion, especially on things like social media. There's a lot of quick responses and to shut other people down and things like that. So taking that time to just really sit and listen to somebody else's perspective can take a little bit of practice. We're also going to be talking about implicit bias. Implicit bias. So implicit bias is really a psychological factor where two things are sort of paired together, right? We often show the video that pairs peanut butter with jelly. So when I say peanut butter, your immediate reaction is jelly, because those two concepts have been paired so much in our life experience that that becomes sort of the automatic response. Well, the same psychological concept can happen with much more serious topics such as race, such as gender, where maybe through the media or through just historical context of a certain perspective, you could see the pairing of two things that can have disastrous effects. The peanut butter and jelly video done by the New York Times talks about the pairing of the concept of violence with Black men throughout the years and throughout our media. And so sometimes even people within certain cultures or backgrounds, even when they even have implicit bias with their own race, right? Because that's been paired. Those two concepts have been paired. So when you see somebody, you might elicit a reaction in you because you're assuming that person has those characteristics that have been reinforced through the media or what you see or what you've heard. So these are often more subtle, they're hidden, they can really even be unconscious. And oftentimes it's difficult to admit to them. Nobody wants to think of themselves as quote unquote a racist, but implicit bias doesn't necessarily mean somebody is a racist. It could mean that you've been, sort of exposed to racist views or opinions But it's really a call to us to really look at our judgments as they arise in our head. Look what we're thinking about a person when we see them. Take a breath, right? And sort of recognize, why am I thinking that right now? Why am I thinking that? And to be able to sort of challenge our own assumptions and our own judgments that pop up, and where are they coming from? And do you have evidence to support your opinion on that? Again, I mentioned this in the beginning, but the concept of cultural humility is really a wonderful concept that I try to follow as much as I possibly can, although I'm not perfect at it. But it is the lifelong process of self-reflection and self-critique, whereby the individual not only learns another's culture, but one starts with an examination of her or his or their own beliefs and cultural identities. So, it's sort of looking at, okay, how have I been raised? What are some of the things I've learned throughout my life about certain groups or about certain cultures or countries or whatever? And again, it's not necessarily to dismiss anything that I've been taught or I may have incorporated into my worldview, but just to kind of think about it and think about it from other people's perspectives and be willing to listen to others. If you're looking for a great story on YouTube, Chimamanda Adichie, she is a author and poet from Nigeria. She gave a 2009 TED Talk, which is probably one of the most viewed TED Talks in history, on the danger of the single story, and how when we have one story of a people or a culture, which can often be referred to as a stereotype, right? How dangerous that can be and how limiting that can be and how incomplete. Sometimes stereotypes might be true, right? But sometimes they're not. And if we just go off of what a stereotype is when we meet somebody or in a certain experience, we limit our experience and we limit our ability to make a true human connection with another human being. So look that TED Talk up, The Danger of a Single Story, and watch that if you have time. It's very well worth the watch. So at MCC, we really value diversity and civility. It's become one of our core principles, that we respect each other, that we encourage tolerance of different opinions, and we exchange ideas in our exploration of appreciating everybody from different cultures, and also at the same time embracing responsibility, integrity, and courtesy. One of the things I love about MCC, if you're in person at MCC, but also I'll talk about online, but in person at MCC, there's a little cultural experience at MCC. I've worked there for, over 27 years now. And the whole time, there's this little cultural experience that happens at MCC that people don't talk about. It's really small, but it's, in my mind, really big. People tend to hold the door a lot for each other at MCC. So I could be all the way down the hallway, and there's this wonderful student holding the door for me as I come. And don't hurry, I got the door. It is this little thing that to almost to 99.9% of the time, people hold the door for each other. And there's this acknowledgement, there's this thank you, there's this wonderful, beautiful thing that happens every day in the doorways of MCC where people hold the door open for each other. It's that kind of experience, right? That we're trying to move from the doorway to the hallway, to the classrooms, to our lives, right? That we respect and hold the door for each other. And I even see this on our online platforms, in my online classes. I liken it to holding the door open to it's what happens in our discussions in our online classes. Students are so supportive and so respectful of each other. It really makes the online experience very rich. And so that's what we're talking about, right? We're talking about valuing each other and lifting each other up, holding the door for each other so we both can pass through the door is really a powerful experience. We also at MCC have a bias incident report process. So if you feel that you have witnessed bias in any experience, you can anonymously report this bias incident that you feel needs to be addressed. You can email studentservices@monroecc.edu or call 585-292-2052 if you have an experience where you've seen or witnessed or been a victim of bias. So 3 behaviors that can result in you having more effective interactions. First, examine your reservations. When you're talking to someone new or who you perceive to be from a different background than yourself, examine what's going on inside, right? And then try to still engage with folks, right? Try to get to know them, ask them some questions. I think sometimes we've lost this, especially in person, because we're waiting for classes to start and people are on their phones, right? Instead of like having small talk with folks. And so try to really put down the phone and say hello to people, ask them how they're doing today. And then look at your social circle. Who do you tend to hang out with? And can you make an effort to expand that circle a little bit? You'll be surprised at what that can do for you in your experience and in your personal life. It's really a great way to expand your horizons. And finally, get involved in campus organizations. I know sometimes this could be a little bit more challenging when you're an online student, but there are still opportunities. And even within your own courses, if you're taking courses online, to get to know people outside of class, connect with them. And if you're on campus, joining certain clubs or organizations, really take advantage of the rich diversity that MCC offers, and especially. So let me know what you think. Send me an email if you watch this video and let me know what you think. If you send me an email and tell me that you watched it to the end, I will give you extra credit. So let me know. See ya.